I love a good story. For me, it's one of the only things that sets us apart as a species. The fact that we invent, write down, and share stories, whether they're fiction or fact. And that's really at the heart of what we're talking about with today's guest. She is a phenomenal force. I met her when she was operations director at Coffee and TV, the company which she is now managing director of, and in a role that is upsettingly largely dominated by men, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit. She was shortlisted for WACL's Future Leaders and listed in Pitch Magazine's Top 100 Industry Superwomen. I am really looking forward to this conversation. I haven't seen her in quite some time, so we'll see how things go. Let's put 40 minutes on the clock and meet today's guest, Leonie Moreton. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
The first time I think we sat down and had a proper conversation was when I did those interviews at Coffee and TV a little while ago. I really enjoyed those.
How long ago was that?
I was trying to think. And I can't remember.
I think it was about 6 years ago.
It has to be at least that, because, well, I've lived where I currently live in Suffolk for about 6 years,
right.
And we did that while I still lived in London.
Yes.
So
it was more than 6 years ago.
And that was on Carnaby Street.
Yeah.
Which was good. I enjoyed those. You were operations director.
I was at the time, yeah.
And you had this thing that I really enjoyed. It was one of the reasons that made me want to talk to you again today, where you talked about saying that you were operations director, but unofficially you were like head of happiness.
Yeah.
I really liked that as a job description and as a line. I thought that was very cool. Is that still the thing?
I hold that very dear to my heart, and as funny as it is as a title, because it's a ridiculous title, I honestly feel like that's the whole reason to do my job. It's the what makes me love it. It's the purpose behind what I do. We have just hired someone who is now working alongside me, and her role is head of people, but prior to that she was at a big agency in Paris called TBWA, and her official title was head of happiness.
That's brilliant.
It was an official title.
I love that companies are doing that.
Yeah, but do you know what, I feel like that might have washed in France, but I know our crew would be too sceptical and suspicious of that as a title, so head of people is more appropriate.
Yeah, I suppose so. Head of happiness could be a spy.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know how. But now you're managing director.
I am, yeah.
Which is cool.
Very cool.
And I think there's a lot of people maybe, hopefully, that are going to watch this who, the whole point is people might not know everybody that we're talking to. So you work at Coffee and TV.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Coffee and TV and we'll go from there.
We are a creative studio. We are no longer based in Soho, we're in Farringdon. We've been going about 11 years. And when I say creative studio, I basically mean that we can deliver from conception through to delivery. So we cover VFX and animation, direction, live action direction, as well as animation direction, colour, finishing, and yeah, we started 4 years ago by 4 industry stalwarts who had been working for kind of the big giant corporations. And together they would chat about what they would do differently if they had their own studio. And essentially that was about, what they wanted to do was create somewhere with people at the focus of their intention. And because they had their experience of having worked for the big corporations where they very much felt like a number on a spreadsheet. They had like faceless bosses that they never met. So they wanted to do something differently, and they've certainly achieved that in Coffee and TV. Yeah,
I vaguely remember talking to Derek, one of the founders, about they were thinking of doing it completely remotely to start with, and then they wanted to do thought actually a shop window might help.
Yeah.
But that was a while ago, and now you've just got back from America.
Yeah.
And that was for setting up or starting to set up the new studio out there, and you guys have been joined with, acquired by Omnicom.
There's a thing. We have, yeah.
How's that going?
I mean, it's an amazing opportunity for us, and it sort of has set us on a whole new trajectory. It's a really different chapter for Coffee and TV. So we were never for sale, and I mean that sincerely. A lot of companies say that, but then the founders are secretly selling the company behind the backs. But genuinely, we weren't for sale. And it happened, the conversation began just between me and this other chap who works within the Omnicom group, and I was talking about Coffee and TV's ambitions to open in the US, and he said, well, I might know someone who can help you. And then one conversation led on to the next, and then they were really excited by Coffee and TV's offering, and within a relatively short amount of time for an acquisition, we were acquired at the end of last year. Not 100%. There's Coffee and TV. There's still shareholders in Coffee and TV. But now we are full steam ahead. We're opening up in New York, LA, and Austin, Texas next quarter. And so I'm off to LA in May.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's not like, oh, we've done one extra studio out in the States. That's like we're invading. The British are coming. That's kind of terrifying and really awesome. Yeah. But like, there's things about your life and your past and history that I want to get into.
Do it.
Because there's bits of you that I think are familiar to me anyway, because you're a managing director in a post-production company or a creative studio. You've been operations director, but you, from as far as I can see, you started by founding an all-female theatre company.
Yeah.
That called Paper Birds. Am I right on that one?
Yeah.
That looks really, really cool. Yeah. So I want to talk about that in a minute, but I want to know how you go from founding what looks like a very successful theatre company to then going into post-production, visual effects, creative studios. How did that jump happen?
I mean, it's quite an unusual career path, I'll give you that. The Paper Birds was my baby, fresh out of uni. My girlfriends and I thought, we don't want to enter into normal life. What can we do that keeps us together and keeps us on a sort of creative path that we were loving being on? We had a show that went to Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Again, fresh out of uni, we had zero budget behind the show. So if we look back at the quality of the show now, it's probably a bit embarrassing. And we were doing it in Edinburgh to audiences of like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And, but it was incredible. I mean, the experience was amazing. And when we were there, a producer from the BBC saw the show and said, I love what you guys are doing. Will you help me pilot a show for the BBC? So we filmed a pilot, and it was like an improvised comedy. Even that's not really what we were doing. We did it with Miranda Hart, who...
Little known Miranda Hart.
Yeah, but she wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
She was equally in Edinburgh doing a show to 4 people. And there was another couple of people who now I see on TV and I'm like, I know you. Yeah. We did that really bad pilot together.
I've got your mobile number. Do you remember me?
Yeah. But the pilot, unsurprisingly, didn't go anywhere. It was crap. We filmed it in a prison in Hampstead.
As you do.
And it just didn't, it wasn't very good. And so we didn't go on from there. But we were then left in this situation that we thought, well, we were together for that time, having on that really exciting mission. We don't want to give up the dream. Let's just set up a theatre company. So we did, and it was really, really fucking hard work for that period of time. Yeah. We all waitressed in the evenings together at the same restaurant.
That's kind of nice.
It was the TGI Fridays.
Okay. That's kind of adequate.
Yeah, microwaving steaks. We were at TGI Fridays in the evening and then working our asses off during the day trying to set up the Paper Birds. Yeah. But now the Paper Birds are studied on the A-level and GCSE syllabuses. People study the Paper Birds alongside Stanislavski and Brecht.
I mean, that's a claim.
This is my greatest achievement to my name, but it's not in my name anymore. I'm not involved.
Why did you leave? It sounds like it was going really well.
It was a really, really hard and heartbreaking decision. It felt very much like a divorce. I was running this with my best friends. We were all in it. I was 10 years in. And I think, if I'm really honest, I knew that the Paper Birds was only ever going to be as big as my ambitions for it. And I had run out of steam. I was it's hard graft. Living paycheck to paycheck, and also project to project. We kept on, we had to get Arts Council funding per project, for which I was responsible for applying for. And I just knew that my energy for that lifestyle, living out the back of a van, touring around, with my best mate. So there's a lot of joy in that.
It does get hard though.
It got hard, and I met a boy, and I
Boys
just
ruin
ruined
everything.
it, honestly. And then, so because of that, it was choosing between. He was constantly having to fly out to wherever I was on tour.
Yeah.
Which sounds really glamorous, but
expensive. And hard.
And hard. And I didn't. In the end, I was like, I want to form some roots.
Yeah.
So I started just producing and not acting and going on tour. And in the end, I pulled myself further and further away. And I thought, well, I can produce. I know I can produce. So can I not just transfer these skills to producing for TV? And yeah.
It's a sort of a natural progression. And kind of full circle. If you get approached by a producer from the BBC at Edinburgh Fringe saying, help me with a show, and then you start producing shows and doing stuff in post, I guess that tallies, which is kind of cool. Do you miss it?
Do I miss it? I miss getting to hang out with my very best friends every day. Although I've got a new, friendship group in Coffee and TV, and I love my colleagues dearly there. It's a long. I've been at Coffee and TV longer than I was at Paper Birding.
Yeah, I mean that says a lot about a company, I guess. If you're there for that sort of duration.
Yeah.
Longest I've been at a company is 6.5 years.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, that was Escape, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Before that, it was. I've been at an engineering company for about 4.5 years. They made me redundant. We don't talk about them. No, they suck. I miss acting a little bit.
So tell me about your acting roots.
It's the wrong way around. I met my wife at drama school.
Which drama school were you?
I went to the Poor School in King's Cross, which no longer exists.
Yes, well, I do
sadly.
know of it though.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I went there. I was a Poor Schooler. Did theatre acting after I left for a little while. Never paid the bills.
Yeah, I know.
So I always had the marketing career as a backup, which is good. Discovered I tried a bit of screen acting and short films and things, and I was crap. It was absolutely dreadful.
We were. This is why when the Paper Birds were put in front of a camera for this BBC pilot, we were awful because we were just so OTT because we were used to projecting.
And then, but weirdly self-conscious. I feel less self-conscious. I did a tour in Dubai for Romeo and Juliet. It was the last thing that I think I acted in. To like audience of 500-600 people. Wow. That was less intimidating for me than sitting in front of cameras. Yes. Which this feels really weird for me because this will be the first time that I'm in front of a camera or any form of focus for 6 years, 7 years, which is very, very bizarre. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know if I like it. We'll see. We'll find out.
You'll get used to it.
We'll get used to it. And cross fingers there's enough times to get used to it. So you went from Paper Birds to producing and...
I mean, no, I wasn't producing because I had to start again. I had to essentially start from the bottom and work my way up because although, I think I got in at some amazing companies. I worked at HSI and Gorgeous, and at the time they were both very big, prominent production companies. And I suspect I got in because they knew I had been a producer and run my theatre company. Yeah. But then I didn't know the industry. I had a lot to learn. So I joked for a while that I was Soho's oldest runner.
Yeah.
And then actually I met. So the intention was always to be a producer, to work in the production side of it, not post. But then I met the founders of Coffee and TV. They just opened. It was 4 founders and they had got an assistant working with them. It was 5 people and they had a pool party in Cannes at the Cannes Lion to sort of launch Coffee and TV. And I fell over so very spectacularly at this party that they all remembered me.
Really? Well, that's a way in. It's an unconventional way in.
Very embarrassing. I've got the scars to prove it.
Have you really?
A really big scar on my leg, and it was really bad and so embarrassing. But anyway, I'm so grateful for that mishap because afterwards I emailed them. I knew them anyway, but hence being at their party, but I hadn't really considered moving into post-production, to be honest. But then when I met them, to be honest, I fell in love with them and I fell in love with their purpose and their unique way of going about things. And I wanted in on that startup journey. I had loved that about the Paper Birds. The startup days are the most exhilarating of days. And I wanted to join that again. And so I reached out to the guys and really ridiculously said to them, I love what you're doing in London. Let me open up a studio for you in New York. And they bizarrely said, well, let's talk. And then they said, yes, like, let's do it. So I went to New York for to do some research, came back with a business plan that said, you're not going to make any money till year 3.
Yeah.
And then they had to break the news, we can't really do that whilst we're so brand new in London, but will you stick around in London? I went, okay.
Why not? All right, if you insist, I'll join you, nice people.
Yeah.
I'll start working on interesting things.
Exactly.
And that was operations. And then
That was
developed.
in a new business role, actually. I was, but because we were in the startup mode, I was straddling new business and also operations. And I think that's just because I was sort of passionate about it. My CEO and I had a really strong, at the time he was MD, and we had a really good relationship when we were talking about very much how we could grow the business. And I naturally took on, with his guidance, and we were on a sort of journey of learning together. Yeah, so then I moved into operations. I was never particularly good at the sales piece, if I'm honest.
I'm crap at sales.
I mean,
I'm really dreadful at it. I wish I was better, but
what I was good at was making relationships with people.
Yeah.
But then I would get to a point where I felt like I was, overstepping the mark if I then said to them, have you got a script that you could pass our way? Or I felt like I was now infringing on the friendship that I built with them. And the whole point I was building the friendship was so that I could ask for the bloody work. And then I never got. Anyway, I was a really crap salesperson.
It's that weird conceit, isn't it? It's like, I need to build a relationship with you. I now like you, but can you buy something from me, please?
Exactly, yeah. But I've worked out since how to reframe that you're, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
And you're not going sort of cap in hand, please, can I work for you? It's like, what can we do for you? You have got an issue that you want to solve. You need post-production, or you need a director, or you need a designer, and we're the best at what we do. So let me help you. That's how I've reframed it.
That's a nice way of reframing it. I'm going to steal that for my own little production company and see if that works.
It will work.
It might work. Other than that, I'll just have to find a friend who likes doing sales and get them to do it for me. It's much better.
Some people love it, though. Some people are so driven by it.
It's
love
true.
the chase. And
I can't. I just can't. But it's one of the things that strikes me about coffee and TV, though, is that it seems, from the outside looking in anyway, that that's what you've done. You've put the right people into the right places.
Yeah.
And you look at how many British Arrows Simona's won.
Oh, yeah.
It's just bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always been really good at hiring.
Yeah.
And I think so much of that is listening to our guts. And I think that they don't teach that in any kind of MBA about listening and to your instinct. But I know, and I know this sounds really arrogant of me, but there's been the sort of longevity at Coffee and TV. Once you join Coffee and TV, you stay.
Yeah.
And that's because we've hired the right people who I can absolutely see have a future at the company. The couple of times I've been slightly unsure, and it's taken someone else to coerce me. No, I think they're going to be good. No, I think they'll be right. And I've been taken down. Okay. They've not worked out for us. So now I, in a very control freaky way, really want to have sign off on all of our hires.
I think that's fair. Like, if you've got a good gut about people,
Yeah.
you can't train an instinct about people.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard to hire. Like, I've interviewed people for jobs before, and it's very different to just a sit down chat. You need to get something specific out of it.
Yeah. And you need to get to know them, their true self, because people have a different persona in an interview. So you need to somehow get them as relaxed as possible so that they can reveal who they really are.
Gin.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ethical, Dominic.
Well, probably not, but it'll work. There's ethics and there's function. It is true. Interviewing is really, for interviewing job roles, is really hard. I remember talking to Derek at one of the Creative Rooms events that we hosted through Escape. I'm constantly talking about my former employers. And he was talking about how he was really enjoying the running the business side of things. And he found that quite a surprise.
Yeah, okay.
Are you finding the same sort of thing now that you've stepped into the MD function? Are you enjoying that bit?
I love it. I love it. But that's not a surprise to me because when I was 6, no, not 6, 8 maybe, I wrote out, I'd set up a business and I designed the letterhead and I drew spent all day drawing out the letterhead on as many different pieces of paper. We didn't have a printer or a computer. And I rang up and I was starting a theatre company and I was going to put on a show. And before, I was 8 and I was ringing up theatres in London saying, I've got a stage production. I mean, I've always been trying to run a business, even when I had no business.
I mean, that's very ballsy. That's the thing to do.
Imagine being on the receiving end of that phone call. Sorry, what?
I kind of like that. Do you remember there was a story that went around a little while ago about a kid who redesigned the IKEA flag or something, and they decided to have them made and put them up outside a store.
Amazing.
I kind of love that idea.
That is so brilliant.
I had an obsession with stationery when I was 8 years old. I would always be, and business. I liked registers and ticking things off, and I love spreadsheets now. So I suppose
that'll be why.
Yeah,
we went to Hamleys one year at Christmas, and my parents, it was a Christmas day out. We went to Hamleys and said, you can choose one thing. And I chose to get some Betty Boo business cards printed.
Excellent. I love the fact that Hamleys were doing Betty Boo business cards. That's very specific. Leonie's coming in, we need to get the business card printed on. Why would Hamleys do business cards for Betty Boo? I suppose for kids like you.
So you could choose your character. And I obviously was like, Betty Boo.
Yeah.
And it was
there.
For the business that I never had.
I would go for Optimus Prime, I think. Optimus Prime business cards would be great. Yeah, I could get behind that. But then you did have the business. So you started a theatre company as a grown-up human, but you imagined doing it as a kid. There was always that sense of story and sense of self, I guess, in what you did.
Yeah, and I know the reason for that will be because my dad ran a business that we all lived and breathed when we were growing up.
What did he do?
He ran a small ad agency.
Oh, right.
It was small and it was below the line, but we lived and breathed it because the successes and the failures.
Yeah.
So when he was pitching on a new client, we were all involved in that. He would be talking to us around the dinner table about this client and ideas. We were all coming up with ideas for an ad, and then I'd spend school holidays. And it was Adland when everything was on a drawing board because there was no computers in the offices, and so
very Mad Men.
It was. He was really of that era though. Obviously not when I was there. I'm not that old, but he lived that. He properly lived that in London when he moved to London when he was 18 and got his first sort of Adland job. So I think I've just grown. I've just learnt from my dad really. That's the root of it, I should imagine.
That kind of makes sense. My dad he's retired, a chartered surveyor, and I used to think that he was a spy, or genuinely I used to think he was Superman because he would go away a lot, just disappear.
And this is the second time you've mentioned a spy, so I think there's something
Maybe I'm secretly a spy.
Yeah.
It could be a thing. I don't know. Maybe I should contact GCHQ. I did apply for GCHQ once. When I left uni, I did journalism at university. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and I applied for GCHQ.
Yeah.
Failed miserably.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't imagine anything tougher to get into.
Yeah, I don't think they looked at my answers to their personality quiz and thought, this is a man we can trust with listening to things and not telling people. Too much of a gossip maybe. I don't know. That's good. But what was your childhood-wise while we're talking about it?
Yeah.
What was it like? Growing up growing up generally with a dad who works in the industry that I guess you're now in.
Yeah. I mean, he's got he's a raconteur, my dad, and he's 82 now. Give him, a glass of wine and he will keep you in your seat for hours as he regales you with stories about what it was like then. Including, he'd jump on his Vespa at lunchtime, scoot to a dance hall,
excellent,
have a mad dance for an hour, and then scoot back to work.
Really?
Yeah.
Lunchtime dance.
He'd have a lunchtime dance. I think there's nothing better. And then he met my mum was a model in the 70s, and her modelling agency had a party, and given the industry that my dad was in, he managed to get an invite. He met my mum at this party and proposed to her. at the
Wow.
party.
What, at the same
Party.
on the same day?
On the same day as
Met
meeting
and
her.
proposed immediately.
Yeah, he
I'm
fell in love
wow.
with her. Yeah, yeah.
That's
She said no, of course, because she was like,
very
"Get up
sensible.
off the floor, you're embarrassing me." But yeah.
But
and
decided
years later
to
we
go
did.
for a drink with him and then
Exactly.
virgin.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you've got kids now.
I've got 2, yeah.
Do you think they're going to do the same thing, go into the creative biz?
I know that my son is exactly like I was when I was growing up, in that he's always making things, drawing things, and he's a really creative and sensitive being. He lives in a world of imagination, and that's very much me. Which sometimes is really annoying because you just want him to sit down and watch TV so you can get on with something, but
Yeah.
he's not. He has to be busy making, doing. My daughter's 4. I don't know which way she's going to go. She's less like me because she's incredibly competitive, and I don't have that competitive side. But maybe that's because she's got a big brother and she's just trying to outdo him all the time. I don't know. She was walking at 9 months old because she was ferocious. She was like, she's going to, I don't know, she's going to be scary ass power bitch, I should imagine.
Rule the world.
She will be.
I think it's great. So I've got a daughter. She's
do,
19
yeah?
months old. She was walking at
Gorgeous age.
10 months, I
So
think.
that's very young as well.
Yeah,
It's
she
really
was walking
young.
at her first birthday, like properly
Yeah.
trying to run. It's remarkable. But she's a force.
Force.
Like she chats a lot. She's got good words.
Yeah.
She loves running through puddles, does a little wind up and roars at them as she
Yeah.
goes. She's going to be fierce when
But
she
that's
grows
good.
up.
That's what we want. Let's raise fierce
Wonderful.
daughters. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But that's it sort of leads on to part of what I wanted to ask you as well, because being a managing director, upsettingly stereotypically male-dominated role.
True.
Post-production visual effects industry, upsettingly male-dominated industry.
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you found it sort of challenging being in that position?
I'm obviously aware that there's fewer women in the industry, particularly in management. I think I go to a lot of like women's networking events, which I love because there's so much power in bringing women together and women supporting women. And I think from the position of arguably being an underdog, we now are able to lead in a very different way. And I think for a while I was sort of play acting at it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I was trying to emulate my boss and the way that he'd done it. And I was thinking, I had to sort of be this person. And then I was really lucky to have some coaching with an amazing coach. And he's an executive coach. And he essentially was just saying to me, be your authentic self and have confidence with that and who you are. And then once I was at one with that, I feel like I've never been better at my job because I am honest about what I can and can't do. I know where my strengths lie, but I also won't profess to be good at things I'm not. And I'll pull in brilliant people around me. I think I'm grateful to be a woman in this role because I think that's one of the reasons that makes me good at it.
I had most of the bosses that I've had who have been women have been the best managers I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like not my first manager out of uni. My first manager out of uni was a man. He threatened to punch me in the face, so I quit my job.
Interesting managerial
Yeah,
technique.
isn't it? It was a bit awkward. But the second company that I worked for was an engineering company. The director of strategic change, I think was her title. She was a fantastic person to work for. She came to my house that I was living in Bath and taught me how to bake.
What?
And also mentored me at work. Daryl Whitehead, I think her name was. She was fantastic. And then I also worked for a woman at the same company called Pippa, who was just lovely and so into horses, but so supportive and so wonderful. Most of the men that I've worked for have had too much of a competitive streak. They wanted to not want, it feels like they don't want you to succeed as much as everybody does.
Yes.
And I don't respond very well to that. My current manager in my day job is a man, and he's great. Like he's the best man manager that I've had.
Yes.
But because he's got a sense, then I think I've had this from most of the women that I've worked for or with, of kindness and understanding and empathy. Like, I haven't been into the office all year for various reasons, and he's understood, and I like that. But the entire industry needs to shift, and it needs to shift to have more women involved in it, more women in leadership positions.
Yeah.
In post-production particularly, it needs, from my perspective, as a not woman, it needs more women in not production roles.
Yes.
Because they're like everywhere. It's women in production, women in colour. But out of that, I don't see many like 3D modelers and things.
And actually, there's
leaders
not many women in colour, actually.
Are there not?
They're predominantly male again.
Wow, I've got the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah, well, I just think, but I think that's because Simona is such a presence in the industry. But yeah, there's far fewer women than there are male colourists.
How does that need to change, though? How can that shift?
So I think the industry as a whole is pitifully diverse. And I think that needs to start in education. And so Coffee and TV are launching in the spring Pixel Pathway, which is an employability program. So basically encouraging people from diverse backgrounds to retrain or train in post-production. So a lot of it starts at education, and we are told this sort of gender divide begins in schooling when you're told, oh, girls are less scientific, or girls aren't into the techie side, and that the fact of the matter is, in visual effects, it's really techie.
Yeah.
And but then it's like, this is a falsehood. If we're being told that, then we will go the route that we are told that this is your natural path.
Yeah.
And so we are trying to fix that in education.
It is also absolute bollocks that women aren't as technical.
Yeah.
Like the Grace Hopper, Admiral in the American Navy, was the woman who devised a way for people to communicate and program machines.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a woman that programmed the Apollo landing sequences. I've bought my daughter a book called Computer Engineering for Babies, which she loves. It's brilliant. Women are so technical. But you're right, it's that the preconception that you have to go down a certain path or an empathy path. Speaking as a relatively new parent as well, there's a lot that needs to change to get women back into the industry after motherhood.
Yes, huge
It's
amount.
such a pain.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the right solution is.
I mean, I think one of the routes to fixing this is that more men should be involved in the parental leave.
Yeah.
And when it was introduced, this shared parental leave, and I think it was Nick Clegg did it ages ago, and there was like a 1% uptake on this.
Yeah.
And I think because a lot of people don't even know that that's an option to do shared parental leave.
Yeah.
But I think then, so I went back to work after my first. I went back after 7 months, and then Luke, my partner, took over. And for many reasons that was helpful, because he was also seen as a true co-parent.
Yeah.
He knew how to pack the baby bag, and he knew what Freddie needed, and he wasn't so dependent on me to be the primary caregiver. And also it showed that my career was important too.
Yeah.
I think that is a way to help.
That does help. It's hard when you're a freelancer, I think.
Yes.
Like my wife's a freelancer. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. We'll see when I go into the edit and run this through.
That's it.
She's been offered to go, so she's a production manager in high-end TV.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Really, really good at her job. She and I own the production company, 12 Million Films, that are doing this together.
Brilliant.
We set it up as a thing.
That's so nice that you're doing it together.
It's great. I love it. I love working with her. It feels weird that she's not here because she's with our daughter.
Yes.
But all other productions we've done, it's been together.
Yeah.
But she has been offered 3 times, I think, to go and do production work on shows.
Yeah.
But they've all said, oh, you need to be on site for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. But there's also no reason for it to be required. It seems like businesses need to shift a lot to understand, actually, we can trust people. We can trust that you'll do the work without breathing down your neck or observing you the whole time. And I think that's going to help with the challenge.
And I think COVID helped. with that
fast-tracked it.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now, like, we don't have any mandated days in. We just trust people to make the right decision for the company and for themselves. And it means that, and I also think that's another thing about having a female MD at the helm. I understand when people say, I need to go to that assembly, or I want to pick my daughter up from school, and then I'll get back to work afterwards. Of course you will. I trust you to do your job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre to think that there was ever a time where we had to be in 5 days a week. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think the next generation who never have to see that is going to have a really interesting time and a really interesting outlook on everything.
Yeah.
I love it. It's funny you mentioned COVID. What I remember, one of the last things I did at my former employers was when it hit, I think it was a COVID thing, or it was pre-COVID. It was around that time, I and Rob Drury, one of the engineers there, went in to Coffee and TV to set up a bunch of remote working stuff.
Right, did you? Good on you.
I filmed
Thank
him
you.
for that.
Thank
He did.
you.
Oh, I didn't do it. He did. He's the one. He's the hero, not me. I just filmed it and stuck it on the website to try and be like, oh, we can do this.
We can
for
do
other
this,
people.
yeah.
It's the bit I can't. I can do that bit. I can't do the sales bit. But there you go. I've loved this.
Are we at time?
I think we're at time. This is nearly time. We're at coming up for 12:30, and you've got a 12:30 cut off.
I do.
I have a questionnaire
Yes.
to finish all of these things with,
Yeah.
which I have shamelessly ripped from James Lipton, who hosts Inside the Actors Studio.
No shame in that.
No shame. I mean, to be fair, he ripped it from Bernard Pivot, so who ripped it apparently from Marcel Proust. So
There we go.
Whatever, it's
It's
fine.
a long history. in this.
I like it as a way to gain a bit of insight into more about the humans that we're talking to.
Okay.
So let's see how we go.
Okay.
What's your favourite word?
Community.
Oh, nice. I like that. Rupture for me.
Rupture.
I don't know why I like rupture. I just do.
Sounds good.
It sounds good.
Rupture.
What's your least favourite word?
Pessimism.
Yeah, that tallies. Yeah. What's a sound or noise that you love?
It's got to be my children laughing.
Mine too. It's great. It used to be the C for me, but then I had my daughter, and oh my God.
Yeah.
Sound or noise that you hate?
My children arguing.
Yeah. I'm only going to have the one. So I'm
Oh
not gonna
God.
have that.
Honestly, the sound, the pitch that they argue at, and it's pretty constant. Yeah. It's painful.
I'm not going to. No, thank you. What inspires you creatively, professionally, personally? What's the thing?
Collaborating with other people, being in a room, and there's nothing more inspiring than being alongside the people I work with.
Bounce off other people,
Yeah.
get the spark.
Yeah, very much.
What about the opposite? What turns you off?
Oh, yes, I can answer this. People who drain your energy, people who just want to moan, people who are skeptical, people who will come with an issue with no sense of resolve and or intention to resolve.
Energy
People who-
vampires.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and people who moan for the sake of moaning. That's the pastime.
And people enjoy that, and I
Yeah.
just will never understand that.
No.
And I could talk about this for another 40 minutes. so I
Yeah,
won't.
genuinely, I could as well. I don't understand. Like, if you've got a problem or a complaint, fine, bring that. But then let's work through it and try and find a way through.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get moaning as a hobby. No.
Yeah.
If there was going to be a new banknote issued, who do you think should be on it?
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
a really good one. Can I say my mum?
You can say your mum. Why not?
Because she's a hero,
Yeah.
and she'd
We
look
talked
great
about your
on
dad a little bit. Your mum was a model.
Yeah.
And did she keep modelling after?
No,
you
and
guys?
she's 70 odd now, and actually, she found it similarly to me saying that I found it difficult going away on tour with the Paper Birds. She found it really hard to keep having to travel abroad, so she stopped doing it so much, and she had children. But she's my best mate. She's a phenomenal woman.
I love that. If you could do a profession other than your own, what would you like it to be?
A novelist.
A novelist.
I'd love nothing more than to write a novel.
Yeah. What would you write about?
Do you know, I've got lots of ideas bubbling in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And I was poorly for a while, and I spent a good couple of months in bed. I was really poorly. And I wrote this book. And at the time, it was like really flowing. And it was a bit of a salvation for me. It gave me something to do. Anyway, I stumbled on it the other day, read it. It's so very bad.
Yeah.
But I would like to have another stab at the very same idea because I think it's got legs. I just have no time. I cannot express how short of time I am in life. I'm constantly running behind.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The fact that I've got time to do this has just blown my mind. I don't know. I just don't know where it's come from. It's insane. If that's what you want to do most, other than the job you do, then what profession would you least like to attempt?
Oh, a politician. Oh, God, yeah. To have to speak with a hidden agenda. Horrendous.
Fair enough. And if the afterlife exists, what would you like the gatekeepers to say to you when you arrive?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I would say that I made people happy and I brought joy. I loved and was loved.
I think that's fantastic. And a great note to end on.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, Dom.
I've really enjoyed it.
Good.
If it works, we'll do it again.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.